Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan. The irony of the Access media denying their participation in Access media is hilarious to watch, and it's becoming more and more apparent that they don't see the irony of the situation or don't care. And this article from Bounding Comics goes into more detail about how a certain Lord of the Rings fan site has become the epitome of Access media, getting so much access to things that they otherwise wouldn't have as long as they adhere to the opinions and say what the corporations deem worthy and what they're supposed to say. So let's get into this Bounding into Comics article. After calling the Lord of the Rings fans racist, woke the Lord of the Rings fan site claims to be a safe haven for debate. And that, I hope they see the irony of it. They're just like, oh, give us money and we'll say this nonsense. Because that's almost better. That's respectable compared to them not seeing the irony of these two statements. They've been attacking lots of fans for the last year since, a lot of the early stuff about Rings of Power started to come out. And now they're calling it a safe haven for debate. You can't attack your fans and then call yourself a safe haven. That's like Germany invading France and then saying, oh, France, you can come to Germany. We won't bite. Fuck you. You've already bitten us once. We're not going to trust you. The Lord of the Rings fan site, theonering.net, bunch of Access Media shills, which has quickly spiraled into an outlet plunging woke identity politics and has accused Tolkien of being woke, is now attacking the Lord of the Rings fans by calling them racist. Yeah, they had that whole, it was 20 different panels about proving that Tolkien was secretly woke. Back 100 years ago when woke was not even a concept that anyone comprehended or had any definitions for. And their arguments were so bad. I'm talking what? Gondor in Transition was one of the names of these showcases. I need to find the links because they took them all down and actually watch some of these because some of the bullshit that they were spouting is uncomprehendable that they could say stuff like that without it being parody or satire. On top of this, after calling fans racist, they have the gall to describe themselves as a haven for fans who want open debate. Now, places like theonering.net and really our Access media and mainstream media as a whole don't believe in open debate anymore because they don't believe in free speech anymore because they can't exist. You can't attack free speech 1 minute and then say, oh, we totally like free speech. It's an oxymoron that they don't seem to comprehend in and of themselves, or the irony derived from their contradictory statements. In an article written by a contributor named Earl, entitled The Rings of Power and the Issue of Race. Oh, this is going to be gold. The website implies that the Lord of the Rings fans are racist due to their critical reaction of the casting of the Dwarven Princess and of casting as, I believe that's the Black Elf. And I went into it on the Sons of Phoenix last Saturday, as well as another video from earlier that I'm going to post earlier this week that goes into detail about how this isn't necessarily about race. It's not in and of itself about the race swaps. There's so much more to it. And by debasing the arguments, just being, oh, you racist, you're not willing to have this open debate that you claim you want to have. You're just painting all the detractors with a broad brush and ignoring the valid criticism that we have of this show going forward. This article makes it very clear this attack on the Lord of the Rings fans is made in bad faith, as Earl writes. While most of the cast, such as Mordred Clark's, I can't do that, Gladriel and Prince Durin and Elrond were generally enthusiastically well received. No, they weren't. I don't think Durin, he looks like a good dwarf. He looks like a really good dwarf. But the other two don't look like their characters either, and they both received criticism for it too, as much as the black actors. So stop calling it racism. It's about more than that. The reaction to the rest of the diverse cast was rather dismaying, shocking even, and even those might be understatements. No, she got just as much criticism as the black dwarf. It's not about race. It's not. But they keep debasing it into that argument and trying to make it so no one can criticize their opinions. Because a lot of normies, as soon as they're labeled racist, they'll shut up. Not us here on YouTube. We get called out every day of the week for things that have nothing to do with racism, like this situation. So we're still going to have our opinions heard. This just simply isn't true. Absolutely. Numerous people have been highly critical of Gladriel, thank you, characterization as the commander of the Northern Army, as well as Elrond's depiction as an architect and a politician. Yeah, they very much just switched Galadriel's and Elrond's role in the Second Age. And a lot of people have a problem with that, just as much problem as they have with the race swaps. The OneRing.net not to be confused with woke website, onering.com, not to be confused with .net, made it very clear they took issue with Galadriel, writing on Twitter, Galadriel is the commander of the Northern Armies. Galadriel is hunting down the last remnant of their collaborators who claimed the life of his brother. In a subsequent tweet, they noted, Tolkien, looking, tell me when you find the part where Galadriel leads her armies into battle. Okay. Okay, that was salty. I like that, onewing.com. I'm going to have to follow you. That's pretty salty. I like that. They also took issue with the depiction of Elrond, tweeting, there's so much more. Compressing the storyline into a few years rather than the centuries, adding new forbidden romances, the show being run by J.J. Abrams' acolyte, Elrond is a cunning young architect and politician. Yeah, and that's another one of the big problems is the ignorance of canon. These events that they're showing transpire over thousands and thousands of years, but they're like, you know what? They all happen at the same time. Just like, I'm sorry, what? That's like if you did, the Bible, if you adapted the Bible into a TV show and you made Adam, Noah, Moses, and Jesus all interact with each other at the same time. That's about the equivalent of that. Can you imagine watching a Bible TV show and it's like, oh yeah, they all happen at the same time? Adam and Jesus at the same time? Yep, these things, they totally happen at once. The birth of mankind and, the resurrection, same exact time. No. That is very contradictory to the very events of which they're adapting. You need a little bit of time between Adam and Jesus to get the context of why, Christians believe that Jesus is important. And that's a similar situation here with The Lord of the Rings. If you're compressing that down, you lose a lot of the context that make those events of note. Because Sauron's rise to power, taking thousands of years, is a lot more frightening than you're just like, ooh, whoop-de-doo-de-doo, it's so nice in Middle Earth. And then 1 second, you're like, oh my god, there's a Dark Lord, and he's got a ring. What the fuck is going on? No, it took thousands of years, and he slowly took control. And that's a much better story. So there's a lot to criticize about the show, besides the race swapping. I know, crazy right, there's valid criticism. I know, that's just so weird. I just thought everyone was racist. Wow. God. The OneWing.com was not alone in criticizing Galadriel and Elrond. YouTuber JisSomeGuy, you should all check out JisSomeGuy. He is the Lord of the Rings expert of all Lord of the Rings expert. He is so fucking knowledgeable. I think he speaks Elvish too. He shared his thoughts. I don't recall Galadriel being described as angry and brash. Absolutely not. Proud, yes. Clever, yes. But never angry, never brash. But that does not sound familiar. Where have I heard this before? It's the generic personality given to every action girl. I bet you're going to deck her out in armor with the shaved head and braids. And I think this comment was before those pictures came out because, yeah, the pictures revealed that he's pretty much right about that description. And, yeah, they're taking away Galadriel's personality, just making it something new. Just make a new fantasy world with this new character that you want because this isn't Galadriel or the Middle Earth that we've come to know and love. And yeah, having her young at the same time as Elrond is insane in and of itself because she's thousands of years older. And Archaeopolis, my boy Ryan, has gone into detail about it on my Sons of Phoenix stream last week, that they mature in 70 to 100 years, elves do. And so even if they were near the same age, they're already thousands of years at this point, old at this point, and so they would not be young, brash, and stupid. No, they're already exactly how that we see them in The Lord of the Rings. They're the same maturity level, the same appearance, same everything. Just a few experiences they didn't have because a few thousand years are in between those stories. So yeah, Galadriel should not be a young, dumb, brash chick. When discussing her being the commander of the Northern Armies, he also stated, so they're changing Galadriel's character, making her a commander of the Northern Armies. What army? She was never part of any army in the Second Age. For the first third of the Second Age, she'd pass over the Blue Mountains with Celeborn into what will eventually become the Shire, and went further east, wandering around there for 1,200 years before she came back into what's left of Lindon after Barrowland's taken into the sea. Wandering, gaining wisdom. Sounds exactly like the commander of a Northern Army. They sound exactly like the same thing. I don't know why people have a problem with these completely identical situations. He would also take issue with Elrond, noting, Elrond is described as an architect and a politician, not the leader and lore master aligned with Gil-galad like he actually was. Yes, absolutely. The YouTuber also points out how Elrond is depicted too. Even then, Amazon couldn't get the aesthetic right because he doesn't even have long hair, which all elves did. Yes, absolutely. That's a very key feature of their race. Jesus, man. They don't give a shit about canon at Amazon. It's literally just weaponizing it for their own political opinions and ignoring all the important aspects of the story beyond that. And neither does Elrond, who is now blonde, even though most of the Noldor have dark hair. That's another great point. Clearly, people were criticizing Elrond and Galadriel, so Earl's assertion that there weren't is not true. Yeah, back from the OneRing.net saying it was only about the racism. No one criticized the White Seas. It's like, nope, they did just as much, if not more. But Earl more than likely doesn't care because he's trying to use his own lie to cudgel the Lord of the Rings fans with the accusation of racism, which he makes abundantly clear in the second part of his sentence, noting the reactions to the rest of the diverse cast was rather dismaying, shocking even, and even those might be understatements. Yeah. God, that's not Galadriel. Galadriel is one of the most powerful motherfuckers in Lord of the Rings, and she didn't need to do this for everyone to know it. She's one of the only people Sauron was ever afraid of. But he's not going to be afraid of her. They took away all the might and power that Galadriel actually had for a cheap virtue signal, and that's why people have a problem with. They're debasing her character and making her more ordinary when she's supposed to be extraordinary. He then specifically claims the characteristics of the diverse characters and an unnamed Harfoot elder. Yeah, there shouldn't be hobbits in the story at all. And there's a video of some so-called superfans reacting to the trailer, getting so excited. It's like, is that young Smeagol's hand? Is that Smeagol? It's like, this show talks about the forging of the Rings of Power. I don't think it covers the fall of Sauron. And even if it does, Smeagol takes place hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years after the fall of Sauron. Smeagol will not be in the show unless they have thrown out the canon even more than I believe they have. I mean, there are hobbits in it, so they seem to really don't care. Played by Lenny Henry, received criticisms for no other reason than simply being people of color. No, people have criticism with the Harfoot being in it because there shouldn't be hobbits or Harfoots in this world at all yet. It's thousands of years too early for them. This is another lie. Not only that they cast people of color, it's the fact that the characters don't match up to how Tolkien depicted them in his work. Just some guy explains these actors can be non-white, and if they pass as European with or without makeup, they can play those characters. They just need to look the part. Casting non-white actors in Middle-earth show is like casting white actors in a Black Panther movie. It makes no sense, and that is by far one of the best comparisons. One, it's totally fine. All one color, Black Panther, totally acceptable. All one color in a similar mythology-based story. You racist! No, they're the same situation. I wouldn't want rampant white people in Wakanda because that's not the world in which Wakanda exists. Yeah, this article is going quite into detail. Earl does the same thing writing, I wondered about this myself. Who really are these self-appointed gatekeepers of Tolkien's work, and what conceit leads them to believe that they possess this authority? We're not trying to gatekeep, but there is an argument now more than ever for gatekeeping when they give us franchises like this these days. In a moment of sheer stupidity, Earl then claims that the depictions that Tolkien wrote in the books don't matter, but what really matters is the reader's imaginations of what the characters look like. What? So you could read Lord of the Rings and you're like, you know what? This doesn't take place in Middle-earth. My imagination says this is Texas. Does it become Texas? No, it fucking doesn't, because that's not what the author wrote. Throwing out the author's intention is not an argument. As if that imagination wouldn't be based off how Tolkien described them. Yeah, people imagine books, yes, but based exactly on what he says, described by the author. Jesus Christ, OneRing.net. That was stupid even for you guys. This is what he wrote. For Tolkien's writings have been translated in numerous languages and read by people of vastly different cultures and backgrounds. My brain read that as blackgrounds. That makes more sense in this context. As surely their imaginations of the characters and stories were informed and influenced by their backgrounds, upbringing, culture, and surrounding. Sure, but it doesn't change the fact of what the story actually is. As Earl continues his article, he then claims debate, discussion, and interpretation has always been welcomed in The Lord of the Rings. It is what has been kept us going for 2 decades. Oh, but racism, bigotry, and intolerance simply have no place in our discourse. Yeah, you're ignoring the actual arguments people are having and calling them these things so that you can kick them out of your discourse. That's not what these arguments are actually about. Again, it's another clear lie. Absolutely. You can't have debate or discussion with anyone who just screeches racism at you. Yes, it's very difficult. It's like trying to have a mature debate with a screaming child. Your 2-year-old just screaming their lungs off at you. You don't sit them down and say, "My golly, what do you think of that new political bill that nearly passed?" The kid's going to go, "What?" It's not mature enough to handle those types of debates if you're just screaming like that. Skip around a little bit. How is that objectively critical when you just blanket support their casting support? Yeah, you just supporting whatever they do. The OneRung.net. And to the folks at Amazon, we will, of course, be objectively critical of the show. You know you're fucking not. You're so ingrained in Access Media, there's no fucking way you're going to be critical, just like you weren't about that trailer or denying that you were Access Media. But we fully support your casting choices, and we can't wait to see how this ensemble cast you've assembled will bring our beloved characters and then some to life. And that shows where the OneRung.net's true position as an outlet is. They are a shill website for a corporate entity that will not be objectively critical of the show when they can't even be critical of casting decisions that don't align with Tolkien's work. Yes, God, that was a perfectly written article bounding into comics. That is 100% how I feel. But yeah, we can't have mature debates with people if they just constantly screech racism at them like this article mentions. And that's why it's so difficult to have public discourse in these types of discussions that we have here on this platform. Because as soon as you have legitimate criticism of something that's been protected by identity politics, you are immediately the villain. If you're immediately cast as the villain, no one's going to listen to anything you have to say, good or not. If your opinion isn't valued, why should fans come and watch this? If they've been told what you think doesn't matter, why on earth should any of these fans that you've attacked come watch this show? Because the majority of fans are, because everything that they put out, Prime has put out about the show, has been ratioed to hell and back. So that clearly shows you the majority of these fans are not interested. And why should they be after statements like this from a shill site paid with access by Prime itself? Anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video. Anon. If you like what I do here and want to see good, compelling stories that Hollywood will no longer give you, check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues. Books 1, Down in Flames, and Book 2, Apocalypse Then, currently on sale. Book 3, Kill the Dark, coming soon.